you do when a polar bear drops in for a visit? Is it so that inner climate importance in times of outer climate danger is important? When you live your dream in the Arctic, communication and self-leadership is crucial. And with tools to regulate your inner climate, you can then turn daily challenges into opportunities for growth, especially if you live in a 20 square meter cabin with no electricity or running water, where 3 months are in total darkness. To create a better world, we need to share stories that connect, they say. These two adventurous women in their self-imposed isolation. More on this you can read in the first chapter in the book. And my name is Carina Vinberg. I'm from Stockholm, Sweden.
What a great introduction to our session today. As I mentioned before, this is our very first regulars table. My name is Deborah Goldstein, and I have the honor of interviewing Carina Vinberg, who you saw in video on that clip and in person here, because Carina is the author of the first chapter of our very new book, Changing Conversations for a Changing World. And because I love symbolism, I'll mention right off the bat that this date corresponds with the departure of our golden thread, the thread that has brought all of us in the conversational intelligence European collective together, Judith E. Glaser. So just as a foreshadowing, at the end, we will do a toast to Judith, in tribute of Judith. But I wanted to start off by mentioning who we are, the CIQ European community who came together because of Judith. We have started off 3 years ago with a retreat in the Black Forest of Germany. Last year, excuse me, that was 2 years ago. Last year, we met in Sweden, where we actually created 4 different programs for managers. We all co-created beautifully with the good, the bad, and the ugly that goes into co-creation. And this past year, we were all teed up to go to Scotland, but then COVID came and we didn't get to go to Scotland. We decided instead to do a conference. And that's how this book actually was ignited into existence. The discussion about the book had started after the first retreat in Germany. And these authors, 15 authors, came together in a very short period of time to put together this beautiful book. And Carina was actually the last author to come aboard, but after all the chapters were written, it was decided that Carina's chapter would be the first chapter. So before I ask Carina about how her chapter came about, I encourage all of you to write in questions and comments into the chat box, because we would like this to be an interactive conversation. So having said that, Carina, how did your chapter come about?
Well, that's my curiosity that got me started, because as we were planning for this interactive event with the European network, we were communicating on Slack, and Slack, there are lots of different channels and different topics, and one topic was ebook, and it was locked. And I couldn't open, so I wondered, what is this? Well, that's an ebook. We are writing this ebook to launch for the event. And I said, okay, wonderful. Is it possible to join? Sure, come on. But what am I going to write about? You should write about a case or a case study or something. And well, why don't you write about the 2 women that you're working with in the Arctic? Said and done. So I did that. I started doing that. This inclusive, fantastic network helped me with, there was a workshop being recorded. So I got everything there, how to get started, how to sort everything out with the topic, with the chapters, and just just get it really well done, put down on paper, just getting started. And yeah, this topic and the structure actually was what I got, and that was just a fantastic help.
Any challenges right off the bat that you had to manage?
Well, with these co-authors, there are no challenges. You always get help. Because, I mean, I'm native, not English. So, of course, that is one challenge. But, I mean, I got the wordings out. But then we had to get it together in a good structure. And that was the language and the editing, and doing over and over again and looking at it, and just having so much time. Whenever I wanted help, there were people there to help me out. And I actually want to mention a few. The one that got me on the topic was Ute, and then we have Grace, who had made this fantastic Charlotte, who made the editing and the language so beautifully. And I just want to thank all of you for all this that just got me started. Thank you so much. And then there are two more, and that's my cousin Peggy, because she was on me, and my colleague Agneta also. So, whoop.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. So let's jump into your chapter. And I must say that you had me from the first passage of your story. I mean, folks, listen to this. This is how the chapter opens. 2 women, 1 dog, no electricity or running water, 9 months in a trapper's cabin, 3 months in total darkness. This is Hearts in the Ice. Now, isn't that a grabber? So, Carina, what is Hearts in the Ice?
Well, Hearts in the Ice was created by Hilde Folun Ström and Sunniva Surby, 2 polar ambassadors, 2 history-making polar ambassadors who had wanted to be decided to be the first woman team to do an overwintering in the Arctic. And they wanted to engage a global community around the awareness of the climate crisis, and that we each and every one can do something. We can always learn to do an impact, and what all of us can do. It's also so that they have a lot of different citizen scientists and research projects also in Hearts in the Ice. And for example, they're doing work and research and observations for NASA, for scripts where they look on the phytoplankton, for oceanology, they're looking at the plastic in the ocean and in the birds and in animals. They have connected with thousands of students all over the world. Yeah, the list is so long of research and projects that they are working with. And by just collecting the data now, in this very time right now, where there cannot be so many researchers up there, the researchers are very, very happy to have them up there, because they can do observations for a much longer time.
Yes, yes. And not only are they involving, they're helping scientists, and they're speaking with students, and they're involving environmentalists. They also have produced, I'm noticing on Carina and Ute's necks, the beautiful necklaces. And since it is coming on holiday time, Ute, perhaps you can put a link into the chat box, because these necklaces are on sale. I would be wearing mine, except for I gave mine to my niece once she saw it around my neck. When I came home from Sweden, my niece declared it her own. So this is a much more in-depth adventure, then it meets the eye. So I'm curious, and we're going to get into that during this hour, but I'm curious, how did you yourself get involved with Hearts in the Ice?
Well, as I told you when we started out, curiosity is one of my very most important values. So that was my curiosity. I have, like I said, it's the heart and the head and the gut that really gets me going, and from the inside out. I was just so thrilled when Johanna Stolnacke, who is mountaineering guide, asked me to join her for an epic trip to the Arctic, and I just said, yes, I have to go with you. She was contracted then to work as a mountaineering guide, and we had worked the past 5 years. I have supported her in her education to become a mountaineering guide, and that's quite a tough challenge. Up and down the mountains, and then in a field where there mostly are men, and she really learned so much about self-leadership and how to really have your inner climate under control when the outer climate is very, very tough. So I just said, yes, definitely, I want to go with you. This was on an old Hurtigruten ship where we stayed on, about 60 people of us. We went from the mainland of Norway via Bjørnøya, where some of us actually took a dip. And then we went over to Longyearbyen and Svalbard. And on the daytime, I mean, this was in May, that we had daylight 24/7. So we were skiing and skinning, walking up the hills with skins on the skis, skiing down. We had a lot of good conversation on board the boat after a day of physical activity, inspiring, fantastic people that were telling about the history of the magic Arctic, about the animal life, and so many fantastic people there. And then suddenly Johanna started to talking about our collaboration, how we have been working together. And then after that, Hilde, who was then the project manager of this trip, said, Carina, I would like to have your business card. I'll get in touch with you.
And she did, obviously. What did she want you to do when she got in touch with you, Hilde?
Well, she said that, I have this special project, which has been a dream of mine for many, many years. I asked my husband if he wanted to join me, and he said no. So now we have Sunniva and me. We are going on for this epic overwintering. And to do Hearts in the Ice, there will be some challenges, because the overwintering also belongs with 3 months of total darkness. So she saw that working on the mental training, I mean, she's lived up there for 24 years, so she can handle the darkness. She loves actually that part of the year a lot. But Sunniva had been on the South Pole a lot. So yeah, that was new for her. And then of course, being a couple on 20 square meters for so many months, 2 strong leaders, you need to also work on the relations for that. And then I also thought that my experience of working with values and core competences would be very, very much worth for them. Because I just think that, and I think you too, when 2 strong leaders start working together, it is important to look a little bit more into your leadership and how you perform. So to begin with, I would say clarity and conversations as well. So mental training, relations, then the values and core competences, and then conversations and clarity. And then I would also say that this was also to get clarity of a puzzle that they were making, and that was kept evolving throughout the time as well.
Tell us more about this puzzle they were making. Unpack
Oh,
that for us.
yeah. Well, I would say that they were, the puzzle was that they had to, in their lives, of their ordinary working lives, of ordinary jobs, one on the North Pole and one in the South Pole, they were creating this project on the side. They were preparing all the things that belong to it, with the fundraising, with stocking, with preparing the hut, with getting just a project out there, was, I mean, from a little, it just grew and grew and was very, very, very much. So for me, I would say my mission into this would be, was to really prepare them for getting Bamsebu ready. And Bamsebu, that's the name of the hut. And that's Bear Hut. And that was the mental preparation for the 9 months to come, and also to create the awareness of the value-based self-leadership, and then offer tools.
So I'm hearing that what you wanted to bring, or your aspiration to bring to their mission, was values, the values-based exploration, mental training, self-leadership, and tools.
Exactly. Yeah, and then also to contribute all this also by to contribute to trusting conversations.
Yeah.
And
so what did you anticipate as challenges as you walked in to this unusual and exciting engagement?
I would say that I didn't have so many challenges in the beginning, but I found out, because it was a lot of excitement of getting to know them, and we started out working on Zoom, like here, and Sunniva in Canada and Hilda up in the north. And I'm used to working remote, so that was not a problem at all. The challenges, actually, I would say they came along the way. And that was, getting the times, since the puzzle started to grow, they could not prioritize the time that we wanted, or that I set up for them to do, because they had meetings, they had sponsors, they had so many meetings and travels and giving speeches in different parts of the world. So the time ate them up.
Yeah, I also, when you and I have been speaking in the past about this, you also mentioned there was a documentary being shot about them, and there were interviews. And then you told me about something that I just loved, which was that Sunniva had to learn how to defend herself against a polar bear, because they're out there all by themselves in the Arctic with no fences. So we actually, Ute, if you would, we actually have a tiny little clip that will be interesting for people to see.
So it is a short clip, so I might play it twice.
Så har du ett magasin för att få ut ammunition i.
That was short. I do it again, right?
Yeah, you go again. And I can tell this was then with the documentary being shot, and the first, just how to encounter this new rifle that they had to also learn and shoot in a period of time. And they also showed here, because with the polar bear, you don't shoot polar bear, you do it in self-protection. And so then they showed up this picture, and then they went out to practice. And that's holding a gun and then practice. And then you also think that when the polar bear is standing in front of you, you have to know what to do. You have to have everything in a routine. And I would say Hilda, she has met over 200 polar bears. She knows, and I can tell fantastic stories about that too. But when they were up in the Arctic at Bamsebu, the one that met the first polar bear, that was Sunniva.
Right on the front steps, as I'm recalling.
Yeah, exactly.
And so clearly, learning how to use a rifle is front and center as far as essential equipment in order to manage these 9 months. And yet, your coaching was just as important because you were preparing them in a very different way. And it did not go unnoticed. And if you would, we have a clip, a recording of them Sunniva recognizing in hindsight how important your coaching was. So could you set this clip up and then Uta will play it?
Yes, I've got the clip here, so let me pull it up.
And Carina, is there anything that you'd like to do to set that up?
No, do I need to do that?
No. I will play it and I will stop at 5:08, right?
Yeah.
Right, so let's go.
There's, first of all, for me, because Hilda had a connection with you already, and our lives were so busy, I was very reluctant to actually put time aside to actually work with you because I was feeling like I didn't have the time. And then when we made the first call with you, it was time to stop. It was time to actually look at the very fact that we were busy and also look at why it might be important for us to create this time moving forward. So you made it personally very easy for me to sit in a space of self-reflection. And the structure that you created with, and you were on us, you held us accountable and responsible for showing up for each other. And I really appreciated that about you because I am classically someone, when I have a meeting and I'm really busy, I'm asking, is it possible we can move that maybe a little bit? But the one meeting, times with you were times we didn't want to move because we knew it was building a foundation for something very important. That was not just about me or just about, so that was very important. The values were.
I loved hearing that because it shows that they very much appreciated what you did for them in hindsight. So Mike, I'm curious if you, and would ask you to share with us how you were proactive with the two of them. You saw what they couldn't see and you took some action to keep them on track. So would you fill us in about that?
Yeah, definitely I will. Well, I was, the fall, we started in October and we had a year to send off. And so when we got up by Christmas, we had not had very many meetings. So I just, I knew that Sunniva was going to meet Hilde in Longyearbyen. So then we arranged that, and I just said, well, then if it's possible, I think it would be nice if we meet in person as well, also with Sunniva, who hadn't met me, because of, as you heard, being a bit reluctant in the beginning, but then it was really time to set aside. But still, we didn't really get that forward in the manner that I wanted. So, said and done, I went up 3 days in total darkness right before Christmas went to see them. And I was then encountered by the documentary team that met us at the airport. So there we were, and then we started and continued our work with the values. But then I had actually set aside to work a day and a half with them, and that resulted in that I had 2.5 hours. So that made me be very creative in the time we had together. We stayed all together at Hilda's home. So that meant that we could sit in the car, which took 2 minutes to drive to the gym. It was really, really icy outside. It was raining and icy. So that's why we took the car instead of just tumbling down. And then we trained, and during the training you could, I think there is a photo as well from that, Ute, you can show, there we are in the gym. I used the metaphors on how we can train, what muscles are we working with, and then I also put it into the brain and the muscles in the brain we need to work with to be able to have good conversations and to cooperate and build trust. And so I use metaphors in at home with egg boilings and so forth. So I was so creative to use all the time we could together when I saw that we were not going to have the 24 or the 1.5 day as I thought. That's fine. Yeah.
You really milked it.
Yeah.
And here's the picture of the two of them with their dog, their trusty dog. Love
exactly. That. Yeah. And
so after the two days where you didn't really get all the time that you were expecting, how did you feel when you left?
Well, actually, I was really glad that I went, and I was really glad that I'd had face-to-face time with Sunniva and also with Hilda. But also, of course, I felt frustrated because we did not get through. We didn't get everything done that I had planned for. I had replanned so many times. But then, I also said that, it gained context for me how big this project was, because they were sitting having meetings with NASA and with Scripps and with Norwegian Polar Institute and with sponsors and so forth. So I really understood it is a great and a big project that they are building. So I was glad.
You also had mentioned during one of our conversations that they have involved and invited school classes to call in on different topics. So it sounds like, first of all, when NASA calls, you don't let it go to voicemail, right? You've got to pick up the phone when NASA calls. Exactly. And it sounds like they had so much going on, and yet there were only 2 of them. It wasn't like they had a team of 12, it was 2 plus a dog. No. So what happened after you did leave from your visit right before Christmas?
Well, after I left, then Sunniva went back to Canada, and Hilda was up in Longyearbyen. And of course, because they were stressed, there were also some kind of miscommunication, and they didn't quite get the things done as efficiently as they would have done if they would have had the 12 people around them. So what we did then was that we had one-on-one meetings on Zoom calls, and we also had all 3 of us together, and really looking also into strengths, how to switch your mindset faster, because so you don't hang in the negative when you're supposed to really move forward, and also how to implement that in your daily work. So that's what we did right after that, and then I would say that actually. Now I jump a little bit forward, but I know that what really happened was that when they got, in the everyday life, it was very, very hectic. But when they got to Bamsebu, when they had a meeting at Bamsebu, that's when they had a little bit more of time.
And when was that?
And that was in April, around Easter. So Sunniva came over, and this was a time of preparation the hut to make it polar bear secure. And also Hilda had been collecting driftwood from Russia, black oak driftwood to dry and to saw up. So that's what they did. And then you can have a discussion, how do you saw wood the best way? You know, so but then there they really had started to have good discussions, because I don't need to be facilitating the storytelling about the values. They had gotten all the material from me, from the value online that I'm using, so they could work with that themselves. So they shared their stories. And I think that is also so crucial, because doing this work together, like Sunniva said, I also gave them permission to think differently, because we live in a world today where we all feel guilty for not having or doing enough. So I think that was one of the most important things. And as you heard Sunniva say, that I held them accountable, I think that was also a very good strength for them, so they could feel they also could trust each other.
Mm. Yes, that's the key, right? Is the trust in each other and being able to rely on each other.
Exactly.
So what are some of the tools that you were focused on during that spring while they were doing the physical preparation? What were you helping them prepare for? You mentioned the trust, the values tool that you used with them. You inspired them and helped them to have their own conversations. What are some other tools that you used?
Some other tools I used, I have one around strengths, that also a lot of storytelling about the strengths. And then we also have the double clicking, the conversational tool of double clicking.
So tell us about double clicking, please. One of my favorites.
I will. With the double clicking, you really ask the questions to be sure about that you're talking about the same thing, that you're on the same page, or that you're on the net with the person that you're talking to. So you ask the questions about, so you really know that when you say a polar bear, you really say that it is a polar bear that's standing there. You really know what it is and what it feels like. So you really need to double click to exactly know that you're talking about the same thing. There will be less understanding, misunderstanding, or mistrust with that. And with the value work, actually, I would like to share, Ute, if you would let us listen to a clip.
Yes, so I continue from the first clip. So
yeah,
give me a second. It's hiding. Okay, there we go.
Very important. The values work for me was really insightful and illuminating, because I realized that certain values were important to me, but I was living a little bit out of integrity with my values. And, without something to actually put down and measure, you're all over the place you're all over the ice with no skates.
Yeah, that's right.
So looking at those values and then learning Hilda's values, that was really important for me to understand and look at and give space to actually have her tell stories to me when we did the timeline. And that was so cool and so helpful, because I learned things about her that, had we not done that work with you, those stories would have never come out until maybe our 10 months in Bumsaboo, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know. I love that concept, especially as she fesses up to not being exactly aligned with her values. The other piece that I really enjoyed from the book was a passage where you had asked them about role models. And so we've often been asked that before. I love how you went one step farther and asked, what about their strengths and the way they lived their lives made them role models? Why was this important to them? How did did they impact their lives? And I really appreciate that. As you talk about double clicking, you didn't just ask the question I've been asked so many times when I've been doing values. You double clicked and double clicked again to really get to the heart of it, and it allowed them to understand each other so much more deeply. So I very much appreciate that. Now, you left our retreat in Sweden early to send this team off. So I'd love for you to tell us about it. And I will never forget Erica Elam and myself skipping down to the dock to wave you off and to see you off. And I had no idea that you were going on this massive adventure. So please share with us how that the 3-day send-off went.
This 3-day send-off was fantastic. We were about 120 people on the ship, on this old boat this time. And that was, again, so many different documentary teams and journalists and all relatives, family, singer, researchers, you name it, just and a shaman and another coach from England and projects working on climate all over the world. It was fantastic. So they had arranged for us. Hilda and Sunniva had made goodie bags for us. They had made a whole paper full, so we knew that who everybody was with photographs and what we were doing. So we knew who we met when we had talks on the boat, and it was just fantastic travel out to Björnöja, to Bamsebu, to send them off, and that. But still, you know, there was so much equipment that were loaded on the boat, because if you're going to be staying out for 9 months, how much coffee do you need? Or and I know that Hilde was concerned because she was going to make to bake bullar, what do you call breakfast rolls, yeah, all those things. So you know, it was just a lot on tons of equipment that they had to load over to the ship, lifting over. But as we got to Bamsebu, it was one piece by one piece, because it was just in a very small boat that we could take it land and ashore. And we helped them there. I think that was the fastest afternoon that I've seen a sauna being built. That was like this, everything in place. And at that time I was asked to stay when we were supposed to wave the last goodbye, that I was asked to stay among 2 others to talk with them and give also my some literature, some book, some more on the values, but a very important tool, which was the gratitude book and the gratitude journal.
Before we go to the gratitude journal, because you know how much I love gratitude journaling, I'm curious, you had mentioned a shaman, and I want you to talk about the shaman for a moment and how you actually have been in touch.
Well, I think we connected actually directly, because we were in the bus that took us to the boat, and we just happened to come beside each other of all the 160 people. And there there were so many signs in the nature that we could pick up, that we would see would just benefit the 2 of them as we were sending them off. That was a rainbow that was out of this world. There were a polar bear that was sleeping. There were the lights that was just fantastic. And she actually went around and just to feel the energy around the hut, with all the beluga whale, what do you see, the skeletons from them that were on the beach there. It was magic to see her do her work. Yes.
Well,
and we still have contact. Marty.
Since you just mentioned magic, Uta, would you please show the 2 gorgeous pictures from the send-off? Oh, Look at that, folks. I mean, it's worth 9 months in the freezing cold, 3 months in darkness just to see that. That's crazy.
Mm.
And then I believe that there is a picture of the boat. Look at all those folks.
Mm. Yes.
Yes. So we've gotten into the story where you've all sent them off.
Mm.
During their time in the Arctic, what was the most important tool that they leveraged in your estimation?
I would say that was actually to have conversations and to have the courage to talk to each other and also to say thank you. And that was after doing the gratitude journaling, that they had to do that one-on-one and then sharing what they have journaled.
Mm. And I would love it if you would read the part in our book, in your book, in the book,
Mhm.
about gratitude journaling.
Yes, I'd love to. The main goal at Bamsebu was to live the experience, to be fully immersed and to live to tell about it. Hilda and Sunniva can proclaim with 100% certainty, we are living it. As a coach and communication leader, I encourage Sunniva and Hilda to keep a daily gratitude journal and appreciate the importance of recording their weekly routines. I ask them to journal every day, regardless of their mood. This exercise was a time to slow down and reflect. They ask themselves, what am I grateful for today? For Hilda and Sunniva, it could be gratitude for weather, for dry wood, hot coffee, and a feast when eating the 2 last fresh potatoes. Sharing this with each other was also important. You know, Carina, they said, when you only have little, you become aware of what you really have. According to Hilda and Sunniva, the gratitude exercise was like a 1-minute meditation where you feel present in the moment by asking, what am I grateful for? What did I learn today? Why am I grateful and what did I learn? And then thank you. So, and not doing the gratitude book, on the other hand, is like missing out on a daily meditation. Once you start, you wish you had more time. It's that powerful. And I explained to them what happens when the feel-good hormone oxytocin kicks in. By expressing gratitude, you are releasing oxytocin throughout the body. And I held them accountable for doing just this. And this has been a crucial factor for their personal development. Through reflection and putting words to experiences, you take a more objective stance, helping to reframe and refocus the event. And also the simple act of putting pen to paper activates the brain and creates clarity around both positive and negative aspects. It makes the invisible visible, opens up awareness, and builds trust over time.
Ain't it the truth, right?
Yes.
So thank you for reading that. And I copied and pasted those 4 questions into the chat box, folks, hoping to inspire all of you and each of you to take a couple of minutes each day to practice that gratitude journaling. So, Carina, I'm curious, what's going on with these courageous women now? What are they doing?
Well, the 3 of them, because I want to include Etra, the dog, they have just left to do a second overwintering. Because as they say, climate change does not take vacation, and nor do we. So they actually left a little bit later than they thought because Etra had to do a surgery. But now they just left this weekend and they are up there now for 7 more months of doing research and to build awareness. And they had never thought that their self-imposed isolation would be something that they would share to everybody else that are having and living in isolation today, which is really big. I would say, for them. And they are, so they just left and they are all into the dark period of life, of the year. And in May, hopefully, we don't know, what do we know, if there will be a pickup next year.
That's amazing that they went back. And there's actually a clip of a recording, again, Sunava speaking, that really is a beautiful recap, a retrospective of their work together. So Uta, may I ask you to play that?
Okay, so
About 22 minutes, I think.
21, 46 or 48. So I've got that.
Thank you.
Microphone is open. Here we go.
I will share something with you right now because and that relates to the work you do is I'm going to use the example of a fine woodworker who has very specific tools to either, carve or shape a piece, a masterpiece. And someone will ask that woodworker, wow, you are absolutely the finest craftsman I've ever met. And he could say, well, I'm working with these hand tools and they're absolutely the reason for my fine work. And we could say that about you, but what's different about the work we're doing and the work you're doing in the world is you have tools. The tools are out there for everybody. And it's how you share those tools with other people and how you show them how to use the tools that make other people capable of creating masterpieces with their life. So it's like, I mean, there are probably a lot of people in the world sharing your values work and sharing whatever tools you have that are available on the internet or the other people. But the important thing is that you, as a woman, as a person, are very skilled and very capable and very good at showing people the tools and showing them how to adopt the tools so that they can create things that are out of this world. And we're living in a world where we need every person to take responsibility for creating a masterpiece.
My heart is swelling, Carina. And that actually is a big part of why you're so effective, is because of your huge heart. So what are your last thoughts?
Well, I want to just say that it's truly so rewarding to be able to empower people with tools and knowledge that is life-changing. And I think the title of the chapter, Inner Climate Importance in Times of Outer Climate Danger, is actually more than ever so actual today, because we have refugees, we have Black Lives Matter, the climate crisis, we have the pandemic. So I think we really need to work, all and each and everyone need to do that, to empower our teams, our families, and ourselves. Because I think it's so much about self-leadership. You can also have a listening leadership or contagious leadership, but we can all learn and grow in our lives. And we are responsible for our own thoughts and feelings to create those masterpieces that we can benefit from, becoming stronger and better individuals and learn in our own lives.
Such beautiful words, so beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you. And we are, I want to do a little bit more housekeeping before we do a toast to Judith. So the housekeeping is, first, to remind everybody that we are recording this session. And if anybody has any discomfort or second thoughts about having this able to be posted, please either write to us or write it in the chat box, because of course we must make everybody feel comfortable. As Karen would say, psychological safety means that everybody feels safe. We are the European CIQ Collective. We represent diverse perspectives, cultures, and experiences across Europe and beyond. Based on our experiences, both in the corporate world as well as in other niches of life, we as a collective can help people change the way they lead and navigate in an ever-changing landscape by changing conversations and weaving golden threads through, just like Carina's just shared with us today. So Carina was the brave first author to go, chapter 1. Next month, on the third Wednesday of every month, next month, December 16th, Elix Sintron will share his chapter, which is called Create Your Own Yellow Brick Road to Greatness, which I think is just phenomenal. What a great, as a Wizard of Oz fan, I love the chapter's name. And, you know, we've got a special promotion for the book, and it is going to be launched on November 23rd at 3 a.m. Eastern time, which is 9 a.m. CET. And you're able to buy this magnificent book with all of the phenomenal tales for 99 cents. So please make a note of that. And I can tell you from my own perspective that this book is a treasure. It is the stories of the individuals that have written, how they have impacted their clients, and how the teachings of Judith E. Glaser has impacted each of their lives. So with that, I invite you all to raise a glass. Ailish, where's your cranberry juice? And I'd like to propose a toast. Here's to Judith E. Glaser, who shifted the tide of the universe. She has a gift to create simultaneously atmospheres of curiosity and acceptance, positivity, and connection. I speak for everyone in the European collective, where we're all motivated and committed to continuing Judith's work. And we all miss her every day. Cheers.
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 And with that, we have gotten no questions in the chat box, but we have 7 precious minutes if anybody would like to share a question. You can unmute yourself and pipe on in. And as you're becoming brave to unmute yourself, Uta has put into the chat box amazing resources that will that supports everything that we've spoken about today. So any questions for Carina?
I have a question, if that's okay. It's Jo here.
Hi, Jo.
Hi. Carina, I'd really like to know, so it sounds like an amazing experience for the 2 ladies, obviously, but what did you learn through the process of coaching them?
Except from all the fantastic experience of being in the Arctic, where I've never been before as a travel, but it was just great. But for me, I must say that I have learned as a coach to it's easy to reload and to be really creative, as I said, that I needed to really see how can I use the time, use metaphors even better. How can we really recap on this, the work we've done, and use it forward. And then also to let go of some things. And it was, I mean, just what do you say? Rely on the power that just evolves anyway. And you know, it works out very well anyway. And people and like Hindle and Sunniva that are so dedicated in their mission for the world, they are also dedicated for themselves and also for creating the environment or that they live in with themselves together. That was so important. So I think that really just let go gives a lot more than you think. Just yeah, I would say, Jo, that's one good remember.
Charlotte is raising her hand. Yes, Charlotte.
Yes, Carina, I'm just imagining in a 20 square meter cabin, locked in darkness, together with somebody, no matter how much you like the person. There are times when the going gets rough. Did you have like communication disconnects or withdrawals or just disconnects of any nature that you were able to dissolve and bring back the stability?
Actually, I think with the tools that we used, that they knew that they could use them, and you know, since we had the problem was that we could not. We had some communication because we had check-ins every month, bumps about well-being, but that was also on a thread that just suddenly they were satellite phone and they were gone. So that was not stable either. So what I did then was then to be creative again and send some pictures and send a lot of text, not on email, but we were communicating on Messenger. So with that, I did have some communication on how can we and what do we and how, yeah. And I know also that both of them are so caring about each other. And of course, those days it might have been so that one went out and took a really brisk walk, jog with Etra, with the dog, and left the other inside. And then they had those talks and the reflection book and then coming back together. But yes, you're right, Charlotte. Of course, there are times when they did not have all the energy for each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One more question that came into the chat box. We've got time for just one more, so perfect timing. And this comes from Carina Cantel. And she asks, I'm curious, has anything changed for you about how you see your role as a coach?
That's a very good question, Katarina. And as I started to mention before, I think that for me as a coach, to be even, to be more creative and also less, I mean, it's good to have a very good library to pull out and get things out, but stop. Let's just see what happens. More.
So it sounds to me like something that you said earlier, trusting your gut.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, with that, we conveniently come to 1 minute before the hour. So I will, with great pride and great humbleness, thank Carina for sharing her adventure in supporting these two courageous women on their adventure. I'd like to thank Uta for being the tech goddess that she is, being patient and always thinking through things so thoroughly to make our maiden voyage with the regulars table not only smooth, but a lot of fun. And thank all of you for tuning in. An hour of our time is really valuable. So thank you for finding the time and the energy to tune in and to hear Carina's magnificent story. Have a great afternoon and evening, folks.
Thank you.